Hello and welcome to Solvay's basic knitting video. I'm going to show you some basics which involve just casting on, purling, and knitting. Now in order to get going with casting on, hold your yarn basically like this. Don't worry about the length of the tail. And then get it set up so that your thumb is around the yarn like this. So I just hold it loosely in my left hand and then bring my thumb in behind and up. Now you put the needle in front of the yarn like this, then pull it through, and then slightly tighten it over here. Needle through, slightly tighten, needle through, slightly tighten, needle through, slightly tighten, and so on. There are many different cast-ons, but this is a good basic one to start with. And I'll just cast on a few more to get us going. So the next step I'm going to show you is purling. I think it's a little easier to start with because the yarn is right in front of you instead of behind the needle. So this is basically how I hold the yarn. I don't hold it back here. You want to kind of choke up on it fairly closely. So you stick the needle in from right to left and then pull the yarn toward you, over the needle and down, and then pull it through. I'm going to do this a couple times quickly and then I will break it down. Stick it through from the right, yarn toward you, over and down around the needle, pull it through. Now there's a lot going on, and I also want to clarify that there are several ways to manage the yarn as you do this. Continental knitting approach. So here's the breakdown. Stick it in from the right, and then what I do is, in order to have my left hand free, I kind of hold the two needles between my forefinger and thumb. Then I can have a lot more control. Then I take the yarn, pull it toward me, around and down, but I don't let go of it. I'm still holding it so that I can hold it firmly but not tightly while I pull the needle through. If you've been trying knitting, you'll probably experience this. You pull it through, but then it slips off. So this addresses that. When you hold the yarn here, then it's not going to slip through. Another thing that I do here is I've got this needle and then this needle, but the yarn is below this needle. So I've got it I've got the two needles firmly together, and then the yarn that I'm pulling through is below that. So the yarn can't escape up. It's firmly trapped below the left needle. So I've got it held in my left hand. The two needles are together here. Then the yarn is there, and I just pull it through. And as you see, my cat Archie wants to be part of this video. I'm pulling through the yarn, and then it forms a nice loop, and then I just push it off here with my thumb or whatever works. So again, excuse me, so again I stick it through from the right, pull the yarn up here, keep it held firmly, not tightly, and then as you can see the yarn is below the left needle and below where they are touching, so it can't escape up. Then I keep my finger braced here so that I can control how it goes through. Then I just pull it through, and now I have the stitch, and then I just pop it off here. So through, up and around. I'm still holding it here tightly, or snugly but not tightly. And then I pull it through and pop it off with my thumb. And I'll just do that again a few times. What you'll want to do is watch the video a few times because it is going to seem a little overwhelming and confusing. But at some point, after doing it for a while, you'll just find, oh, this is natural. And then you'll be able to have fun with knitting. So through, toward you and back, keep the yarn held, push it through with the yarn trapped below the two needles together, then push it off, and then the last stitch. The very last stitch is a little hard to knit because it's just sitting there kind of a half loop, so I usually skip it. All right, so then to knit, you just turn the needle around. When you start, the needle with all the stitches is on the left. So knitting is similar, you do just a few different angles. For one thing, you essentially stick it in from the right. The left was purling, and knitting, you go in from the right. Then again, the way I do it is I hold it between my thumb and forefinger to stabilize. Then, the same thing as before, you pick up the yarn, you go from left to right around the needle, and then pull it through. And again, this is the same technique I use as before. You see that my needles are together, and the loop that I'm pulling through is below. This is the loop that I'm pulling through, and it's below those two needles, so it can't escape, it can't pull off as I pull it through. Now, what I do is I use my thumb to brace as I pull it through, and then I just push it off. So again, stick it through from the left, and then I hold the needles here so I'm a little freer. Around from left to right, the needles are together and the yarn is below so it can't pull off. Then I brace it usually with my thumb and pop it off like that. Pull it through left to right, pop it off like that. Left to right, yarn comes up and left to right around the needle. Needles are together with yarn below so it can't slip off, and then I brace it by pulling it through. Now I just want to show one more thing that I do, and again this is not standard, but I think it helps with fatigue. When I pull it through, I'm not actually pulling it through with my fingers up here. I'm pulling it through, the actual pulling is happening with these fingers down here. And I was doing this with purling, but this is just the last level of detail to show you. I brace it up here, and then my fingers, the second, third, fourth, and fifth fingers are what's pulling it through. Now, whatever works for you is great. If you can pull it through with your forefinger, that's great, but I think this really helps because my friends have said that they get tired after knitting for a long time, and I really don't. And I think it helps to use the whole hand. Another thing is that then you've got your fingers up here, thumb and forefinger, they've got the control, and then the actual movement is being done with the thumb and the third, fourth, and fifth fingers. So I'll just show you how that works. The pulling through with the third, fourth, and fifth fingers on purling. Stick it through, toward and back, and then pull it through. Here's a better look. And then up, over, back, and then pulling it through with those fingers. It will seem overwhelming, and it is a little bit, but once you've done it for a while, as I said before, you'll suddenly get to the point where you're able to do it. You're able to do it watching TV, and you'll think, how is this so hard? Because your muscles will have taken over and it will be habitualized. So I hope that this helps you get going with knitting, and it's a very enjoyable hobby.